Good morning, everybody. Republican candidate for Wisconsin Governor Rebecca Kleefisch is our very special guest today, Friday, July 29th, 2022. For DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden. Thank you for tuning in for today's show and reminding you that you can watch a recording of the show and all of our shows on our website, Facebook page, Twitter page, and on our YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com/DrydenWire to watch all of those. Special thank you to our guests over the last week, including the very impressive Mr. Will Martin. Hey, who's running for your former gig there, Rebecca?
You got it.
And filling in for Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald for our weekly Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy show, where Burnett County Sheriff Tracy Finch and the new Chief of Police at the Grantsburg Police Department, Mitch Olson. Looking ahead to next week, Fitzy and I will be back for our Positive Tuesday show, and we will be welcoming in a very special guest, the most positive person that I know, and her first time on camera, my daughter, Rally. And on Thursday, I'll be chatting with our last guest before the primary election, candidate for Wisconsin's 73rd Assembly District, Angie Sapek. But today, we welcome back to the show Republican candidate for Wisconsin, Governor Rebecca Kleefisch. Rebecca, good morning.
Hey, Ben, how are you?
Good. So we're a little bit late starting this morning. We're having tons of lighting issues here. You were having some audio issues there. So hopefully, people just kind of bear with us a little bit. It's a live show. What are you going to do?
Cheers. Exactly.
So how have you been? How's the campaign going?
Good. We're on a roll. We feel very good, but this is the point at which you stay really low, you are nimble, and you stay very humble, and you just work endlessly. So we're on the road 12, 16 hours a day, every day, 7 days a week. This is just kind of how you have to roll right now. And so that's how we're rolling. Very proud of the fact that we have broken every record in Wisconsin history for a gubernatorial challenger. We've raised $7.4 million. And, we've got the apparatus already built in order to win in the general, because we have our 8 congressional district chairs. We've got county chairs all across the state, volunteer trees underneath all of them, and then 12 field staff. So we have people who are just knocking doors all day, every day. And by the time this primary actually rolls around August 9th, we will have knocked on 70,000 doors.
No, you personally?
Yeah. Well, when I say I'm on the road all day, every day,
right,
a lot of that requires, travel in the car. So if I was just knocking doors, then obviously I wouldn't be able to make it to more than one particular area of the state. So we spend a lot of windshield time. But I said I raised $7.4 million. That means every single time I'm getting back in the car, I'm on the phone, and I'm on the phone, and I'm on the phone constantly, because all of it requires just a ton of hustle. And I have the dedication, I have the hustle, and I've proven it over the years. So if you're looking for a proven conservative reformer and someone who has been up against the money that we will see and the mob that we will see, that's uniquely me in this race. I've been tested against this crew and this money before. In this primary even, Ben, Tony Evers has already done 3 statewide negative ads on me. 3. Why do you think they
already?
There's only one guy in the primary.
Has he done any... has he done any negative, or you say it was a negative ad? What did you say? Yeah. I must have misheard. Okay, so has he done them on anyone else?
No.
Weird.
No, it's not weird. They don't want it to be me. I am their worst potential opponent. And they know that, and they've said that from the beginning. I mean, earlier this year, they put out a screen graphic with my face on it that said, enemy number 1.
That's got to make you feel good.
Well, well, yes.
Just saying, yeah. So
what do you want me to say, Mac?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And I know why it is, too. If you think about what they are facing, they're trying to gin up their base over the Dobbs decision. Obviously, I celebrated the Dobbs decision, and I am a mom of 2 daughters who is 100% pro-life. And there is a reason that every pro-life organization in America puts a mom or a woman out front, and it is because there is nobody better to speak with empathy and compassion, but more importantly, to dispel the most anti feminist myth out there that Democrats try and push on our girls, which is that you got to choose between having a baby and your own success in life. And they're just dead wrong. I've been doing it fine for years. I have 2 kids, and I've led very successful careers. And it's the same thing with any other woman because we live in America. You don't have to constantly pick as Democrats say you do. The other reason they're really, really hoping it's not me is because I am a public school K-12 mom who went through all of the garbage that Tony Evers put us through over the last 3.5 years. I've been here in the state. My children go to school in this state. They got locked out of their schools in this state. You know, I'm across from their bedrooms right now where they had to sit there on their Chromebooks and homeschool sitting on their beds and have to use their cell phones as hotspots because we don't have rural broadband where I live.
Yeah,
like I'm literally off a cell phone that has better connectivity right now to talk to you, Ben.
Yeah, if that's the best you have. Clearly, we need to.
And I know that it's cut out a couple of times, and I'm sorry about that.
That's
but
fine.
you know, thank your brilliant governor Tony Evers there. I'll replace him shortly.
So you had mentioned at the very beginning of that 7.4 million you've raised. That's total, right? That's not like year to date kind of a thing. But that's like since you
No,
got
that's broken up. So we have raised 7.4 million total in this race, and we had hopes to raise 7 for the primary, so we've already busted through that goal. That would have broken every record in Wisconsin history. But the fact that this race is so expensive should also lead people to believe that, you know, they've got to be citizen activists. And I'm asking for your vote. I'm asking for you to tell your friends, vote August 9th for Rebecca, because it's just that important. I mean, we're putting up ads, as many as we possibly can, and it's a challenge because today people care more about the Kardashians than they care about the candidates. And so we've got to break through that somehow. The only way you do that is with ads or, you know, with a postcard in the mail. Sometimes that doesn't even do it. But most importantly, you do it with a personal phone call or a knock to someone's door, an actual human contact. And that's why our huge field operation has been so important and why it's going to be really important this November.
Have you ever watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians?
I have occasionally. We don't get cable out here, but you know, when I'm in a hotel, you know, when you're flipping through the channels,
Sure.
you start to wonder. What
I've never seen it. I kind of want to watch it now just so I can see it. Because, I mean, not now. I mean, just whatever. I know it's so popular, but I've never actually watched it.
I confess I have not sat through an entire episode. But, you know, you watch it for, you know, 10 minutes and you're like, okay, this is what it is, eh? this is what I'm up against. This is what I am competing against.
Yeah. So that 7.4 million, that's great. Adam Jarkow, he's raised more than his main primary opponent. That's great. Others have raised a lot, etc. There was a race here in Northwest Wisconsin a couple of years ago. I think it was I can't remember which one it was in. I think it was the 74th Assembly District, and the Democrat threw a whole bunch of money. It was like $800,000 or something, and then the Republican opponent had, I don't know, 60, 100, but it was huge disparity. And the person who raised the most won, but not by a whole lot. What I'm trying to ask is, money, especially in a state race, it's very important for a number of reasons. It's not the only thing. But is this kind of okay, we have the money and that's we've raised this much. That's a lot of money. 7.4 million. Good Lord. Is that in this kind of a race a deciding factor?
The race is not going to be determined on money. The race is going to be determined on how many people know the issues and know the candidates. And all the money does is get the issues and the candidates in front of people. That's why people use it as a measurement, Ben. And
Sure.
I know I'm here talking like a pundit and not an actual candidate right now, but we all know I used to be a journalist, and this is the stuff that we used to talk about. So that's why the hustle and the money does matter to some people, because it says, okay, this candidate has worked her tail off and she is willing to put in the time and the effort to make the calls. And, so it is a measurement for a lot
Yeah,
of people.
I would think
But,
so.
to your point, Tony Evers is going to have a lot more money. I mean, when you take a look at what the Democrat Governors Association has already pledged to this race, they have already booked $20 million worth of ad time between August 10th and November 8th. That's the entire general election. $20 million on the year. That's a sick amount of money. And that means they're going to try their darndest to get their candidate and their issues in front of everybody. The problem with that is, you got a candidate right here who is going to hustle like that to match them dollar for dollar, day for day. But on top of that, I have a 12-year long record with the people of Wisconsin. My relationships are deep. I mean, I've spent all these years going to practically every Rotary, Kiwanis, and school district in our state. And I'm a very different candidate than Tony Evers. That's why I'm the only one who can actually beat him this fall, because of the deep contrast between the two of us. And it's not just, the energy level or, the style. It is also massive policy differences. Tony Evers is the one who led us to this crisis of affordability. I mean, you can't buy gas and groceries in the same day. And this is the guy who still wanted to raise taxes in each of his executive budgets. He's completely out of touch with people like me who are out here paying $1,600 a month for health insurance with an $18,000 deductible because we're a family of small business owners. Well, look at 95% of Wisconsin businesses. They're small businesses. We're not the only ones in this boat. We got a propane tank out back there. Tony Evers is sitting there on the Line 5 contract approval at his DNR right now, and we're all signing budget contracts where our prices are skyrocketing. We may have saved for a rainy day, but what about the family on a fixed income? What about the senior citizen down the street from me, down the street from you? Tony Evers has led us to all of this. He was the one who tried to pass the buck on the gas tax. He actually has the exact same stance on the gas tax as my opponent in the Republican primary. Tony Evers paid people more money to sit on the sidelines of our economy than to jump back in and take jobs. And so it's no wonder, Ben, that we have a crisis of affordability. I want to get in there and allow people to keep more of their own money. That's the only way we can honestly combat inflation. And yes, a recession, Joe Biden. I'm sorry, you want to redefine recession, you want to redefine woman, you want to redefine girl. Some of us are not buying it. We're in a recession officially now, and the only way I can combat that as your governor is to assure you keep more of your own paycheck. And you do that by massive tax reform. So we're going to do welfare reform first, get more folks into the workforce. That's going to start to nick away at our worker shortage and our supply chain crisis.
Could you hold right there? Let's stop right there. Could you explain that a little bit further for people who don't know how that works, the welfare reform?
Sure.
So when you do welfare reform,
Sure.
how does that lead to more jobs or more people getting back in the workforce?
Sure. So when COVID-19 hit Wisconsin, Tony Evers declared some people non-essential. He wanted to keep tons of people home. And he changed our economic development agency, the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation it's called, into this massive government judgment agency. And he pointed to people across the economy and he's like, you're essential, you're non-essential. You're essential, you're non-essential. And all these non-essential people that he at government had deemed non-essential human beings went over to the Department of Workforce Development and tried to get unemployment. Now, 95% of the people who actually called or tried to get a hold of them were met with either a busy signal or a hang-up. I mean, complete failure. But there are people still today, Ben, who are out of the economy because Tony Evers told them to go away. And then Tony Evers kept the federal booster payment. There was a booster payment by the federal government that governors were allowed to keep on top of unemployment to keep people out of the workforce. And he was one of the last governors in America to keep that federal booster payment on top of unemployment. So he kept people out of the workforce for the longest period of time he could. And at the same time, Joe Biden borrowed from our grandkids and sent a lot of people up to 4 stimulus checks. So now you've got people who are literally making more money not working than working. So you still got people today who are on welfare, government payments to stay out of the economy. I'll tell you how many, and this is going to horrify you. 123,000 additional childless, able-bodied Wisconsinites, childless and able-bodied, are out of the workforce today more than when I was your lieutenant governor. And yet, we have 138,000 open jobs. We desperately need people to jump back into the economy. Tony Evers is paying people not to, and that's why we need to do welfare reform. When we do welfare reform, it's going to bring back the reforms that we had put in place in the Walker-Kleefisch administration to make welfare temporary. The problem here is Democrats see welfare as this great victory. They think of it as a success when you get more people on government programs. I think of it, you probably think of it as a success when we get people off of government programs and back into work. So we've got to get all these folks who are sitting on government programs back into work so they can actually be contributing to our tax base, but also, once they're working, they have the ability to rise. Right now, sitting on a government program, they don't have the ability to live their American dream. They're not making more money by doing harder work or taking on more tasks or hours. They're settling. And so we got to get people back into our system to take our good jobs, but then also starts to rise. So when you do welfare reform, what you got to do is make work pay. Because right now, there are some people who are making more money sitting on the sidelines than they would make in the economy. So as governor, what I will do is assure that work truly pays by reducing your tax burden. That means when you get your paycheck, I am at government going to take way, 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 way less of it. Government's not going to take as much out of your paycheck, so you're going to keep more of your own money. It's going to essentially feel like a pay raise because government's not taking as much anymore. And that's what an income tax cut is going to do. What we're going to do is we're going to drive everybody in the state toward a 3.54% income tax rate, a flat tax rate. That's going to enable us to beat everybody who is our neighbor in the Midwest, even Iowa, that just moved to a 3.9% flat tax rate. At 3.54, we're going to beat everybody. That's going to be important for keeping our Generation Z workers here in Wisconsin. Those are our youngest workers. They're not buying property. They're not buying houses right now. They need income tax relief in order to stay here. Because some of them, I think of my kid home from college right now. She goes to college in Texas. Greg Abbott is after her hard. And I'm facing a guy who has zero income tax over there. And so we're not going to stop at 3.54%, Ben. We're going to gun toward a zero income tax rate in our state. But on top of that, for senior citizens, we're going to eliminate income tax on any of their retirement income. That's going to keep more of our seniors here. And you don't want to go to Texas or Florida if you're a senior anyway. Their ice fishing is crap. And we've got way better opportunities for, northern recreation. So I just think that we're the winners there. Yeah. And then finally, we're also going to reduce the tax on our small businesses by $200 million. We're going to eliminate what's called a personal property tax. And that's been a burden on small business owners for years. Tony Evers vetoed it. And we need those small businesses to farm that savings back into their businesses by hiring more people or giving people raises or adding to benefits, because all of that is helpful in our economy too.
We have a question here. What about the taxes on pensions?
Yeah, the pensions is retirement income.
Okay.
So we're going to eliminate the tax on retirement income to try and keep our senior citizens here. And yes, P.S., the dumb joke on ice fishing.
These things that you're talking about, this isn't a Rebecca Kleefisch question. This is in a capacity as a governor question. Do you do that? Does a governor walk in, make that change, or is this legislative stuff that you have to work with them and kind of say, this is what we want to do? How much of this can or could you do on your own?
So this is legislative because this will go into our budget. And anytime you have a budgetary decision, we have a joint finance committee. So that's legislative, and it's made up of both the Senate and the Assembly and of both parties, but obviously majority rule. The good news there is all the stuff that I'm promising to you and your viewers, Ben, I can get done because I have 58 legislators who have already endorsed me. I have the votes to get done what I say what I want to get done. So there are lots of folks who are like, oh, well, but do you have the juice to get it across the finish line? I do. And, part of that is built on relationships. 12 years of, working with the legislature to get my priorities across the finish line. And so you're going to see us introduce our first executive budget in February, which we're already working on because I know what I'm doing. I don't need training wheels. I know this stuff backward and forward. And, everything that I am promising you, we've got our budget, our policy director onboarded already. And, we're running down these things and matching them against the revenue re-estimates, making sure that I'm never going to make a promise that I can't keep. So this will be in our first executive budget. That'll come out in February, and we're going to work with the legislature the entire way through. I don't want you guys to have to wait until the 4th of July to get a signed budget. If we already know what we want to do, I've made these promises, the legislature's on board, let's run fast again.
You had mentioned some endorsements. I also saw you had a few others. I think former Vice President Mike Pence has endorsed you, and I think it was Ted Cruz, I think I saw, right?
Yes.
He has endorsed you as well?
Yeah, we've been honored by the folks who have, spoken up in this Wisconsin race. Obviously, former Governor Scott Walker, former UN
don't you mean Senator Walker? Just kidding. Sorry.
Yeah, right. For those of you following along on Twitter, Mandela Barnes, 2 days ago when Alex Latry dropped out of the race, declared that he was running against Scott Walker, which basically just says that Scott Walker occupies way too much real estate in that man's mind. But we can find Mandela a nice job as a community organizer again after this race is over, because Ron Johnson is going to dispatch him handily. But yeah, very proud of the fact that we're law enforcement's choice for governor. The Wisconsin Fraternal Order of Police, more than half of Wisconsin's sheriffs, the Milwaukee Police Association, the Kenosha Police Association Board, Wisconsin Firearm Owners Association. I mean, this is pretty spectacular. I'm the only one endorsed by both Wisconsin Right to Life and Wisconsin Family Action. This past week, I was endorsed by the Susan B. Anthony list. I'm their former Leader of the Year nationally for my work in the pro-life movement.
Fancy. Nice.
And so, yeah, I'm really proud of the endorsements that have come in, but none of those endorsements matter nearly as much as the endorsements of the people of Wisconsin.
Sure.
And that's why I'm asking for your vote on August 9th, because your endorsement is the one that gets me across the finish line, and I'm the only one who can beat Evers. So let's just get it done, and let's send him into retirement. May he play pickleball the rest of his days.
Well, that's very nice of you to say. See, that's very positive. Thank you. Right?
I'm a nice person, Ben. Just ask me.
Are you a nice person?
Yes, I am.
Okay, there you go. See? You had I saw you. So I've seen you twice now. Not actually seen you in person, but you've had a very busy week. Sunday
Yeah.
night. I think it was last.
Every week, man.
Well,
On
I
the road,
suppose.
12, 16 hours a
Yeah.
day. Yesterday, I was actually on the road with the Milwaukee Police Department. I did a ride along,
Oh, is that
and
what they
that
call
was
it now? It's
that's
a
what they call
ride.
it. Yeah, and
Oh,
the
I
last
thought you
time
were
we did a
arrested.
ride along,
Oh, okay. Okay.
I was a reporter. So this was very, very different. Because, when you're a reporter, they do still keep you kind of at arm's length. But they were very willing to let me get in there and get behind police lines and see exactly what was going on, do some of the community work that they are doing. It was fascinating. So, first stop, we were, talking to some folks on a nuisance complaint. Um, Mostly drug dealing and loitering. And there was a property manager who came out and said, "Hey, you need to help us." He's like, these folks are making it unsafe for my residents in my apartment building. And besides that, people don't want to come and live in my apartment building because of the nuisance out front and the drug dealing out front. And we were talking to them and everything, and the guy's like, you really need to get those 1,000 cops on the streets. I said, that'll help you. He said, absolutely. I said, in bail and sentencing reform to actually lock people up. He's like, absolutely, throw their butts in jail and keep them there. He didn't say butts. But he did say, throw the bad guys in jail, which is why we want to do bail and sentencing reform. And then after that, we were the first ones on a shooting scene. And, as soon as we got the call, we raced over. It was at an auto zone. I mean, it was literally inside a building. And sadly, it was at 25th and North, and it was right across the street from St. Anne's Center. And I'm sure there are a lot of your viewers who've contributed to St. Anne's Center over the years. They had the big housing auction when they were buying the land and then building the building. It's intergenerational care. So you've got senior citizens and little tiny kids, in intergenerational care, daycare essentially. And it was so sad. Here you're right across the street from what should be the safest place on earth,
Mm.
and you got a shooting in broad daylight. A guy comes in cold blood, shoots a woman, in the groin and through the thigh. I'm sitting there comforting the woman who is the main witness, who's in tears. I mean, she literally said to me, I wrote this down. Hold on, bud.
Did you ask for a
I
vote?
wrote it down. It meant so much to me.
Mm-hmm.
um, this woman, her name was Hazel. And, I'm sitting there, I'm hugging her, she's crying. And she just said, please help us make it better for my kids. Straight to a mom's heart.
Right. That's got to be impactful when you see it, because you can hear
Of
about it all
course.
day long, but when you see it in person,
And it's just different. I mean,
sure.
having been a reporter, I've been to tons of crime scenes, obviously, but you're behind the tape. And yes, it's terribly sad and often very scary because you've got a gunman on the loose, and that was the exact situation that we faced yesterday.
Hmm.
But the human toll of this is horrific.
Mm-hmm.
And just hugging Hazel yesterday and having her make that plea, knowing that was my mission, that opportunity is there for all of us together to make a huge difference in the life of Hazel, but also that shooting victim and all of the witnesses who were there. I mean, the people at the senior and the daycare center across the street. I mean, we have so much crime to clean up after the lawlessness and the weak and failed leadership of Tony Evers. I'm proud to be law enforcement's choice for governor, and I'm doing this for Hazel, and I'm doing this for all of the parents who want a safer Wisconsin for their kids. A Wisconsin where education is better, where we can buy gas and groceries and not worry about breaking our bank accounts. There's so much that needs to be fixed. But Ben, the good news is I know how to do it because we've done it before. This is the exact same situation that we were facing when we were elected in 2010. We were coming off a deep recession, bad Democrat governor who had weak and failed leadership. You know, I think the circumstances are slightly different because Governor Jim Doyle handed us a budget with a $3.6 billion hole in it. And now at least we have some money on the bottom line to deal with to give money back to people. But, you know, I've been there in worse circumstances and we turned it around.
So
we can turn it around again, and I'm the only one with the experience to do it.
Yeah, so we're kind of going on that theme of when we first started. It was I'd asked you with your 7.4 million dollars that you've raised.
Yeah.
And does that win an election per se, or how much does that help? But and I think you kind of directed it as where I stand on things is what's going to get me elected, obviously, and people that actually vote for me. But that certainly helps get out because I can't knock on every single door. So that certainly helps. Endorsements, we've talked about that certainly helps. Which leads me to that the two debates that you've had, the governor's debates. One was it was a televised, I don't know where it was televised, TV on Sunday night. And then you had one with Dan O'Donnell's show on Wednesday morning. Starting with, I just kind of want to get your thoughts on it. How, does that move the needle for people? Do those debates, so on Sunday night when they're watching it, most people probably have their guy already, right? And I mean guy, just, their person. And I don't know, does that stuff move the needle when you, or is it just, whatever, it's like NASCAR. Pretty much we just watch to see if there's a train wreck or if there's a, dumpster fire or something. Other than that, does it really help a lot? Does that move the needle for people for voting?
I mean, there were train wrecks. Let's be honest. I was not involved. Some people wreck their own trains. But I think for a very few people and for others, it just kind of solidifies their view. Not a lot of people watch debates. That's the greatest bummer. If I could, Ben, have everybody in Wisconsin, if I had the money to put that debate in front of everybody, boy, that would be great because it shows that I am the only one with the readiness, the preparedness, the policy knowledge, the wherewithal, and the chops to do this job. I'm also the only one ready to take on Tony Evers. And so if I could have everybody watch the debates, I happily would.
Yeah, so I don't know how you rate those things. Yeah, I don't know how you rate winners and losers, whatever. But everything that I read that next day and after that, in terms of other people who do this, who won the debate and who lost, it seemed to be a general consensus based on the ones that I went to, and it was that you quote unquote won the debate. I don't know how you win a debate, but that's just what I read, not my words. That's what just Google it, and that's what a lot of people had said. And in there is because I think someone even said that you kind of shined during that moment because this is kind of set for you. It's that, comparison and that contrast. This was really ideal for you in your setting. Well, but I want to hold on a second. I want to bring this up because almost every single one of them in those articles say, because she's very polished. Almost, and some people say maybe too polished. And I read these and I'm like, too polished. I don't know what that means. It'd be like if somebody wanted to come and interview for a job with Dryden and I said, I don't know, you're too qualified. So no, I don't know what that means. So when you hear too qualified or too polished, does it bother you?
No, because if it were the flip side, Ben, and I didn't know what I was talking, or I said or and I stumbled on myself, or I didn't know the answer to a question, everyone would say, oh, well, she's a bimbo. And so we can't have her. And so, I have spent my life being more than what I look like, having a brain in my skull, and being a quick study. I have read countless white papers. I have talked to countless experts. I have traveled the state over and over and over, hearing from the people of Wisconsin, their thoughts, ideas, their challenges, and their dreams. And I have listened. And the idea that people say, she won the debate, I don't know that it's necessarily about the words that I put together or how I put them together as much as it is, I know what I'm saying. And that's why I always say, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Not when they tell you who they
Right.
are, when they show you who they are. And I have spent 12 years showing you who I am. I am someone who makes promises and keeps them. I am someone who has innovative policy ideas. I'm the hardest working guy out there, and that is who I will be as your governor. I have shown people who I am. Now, my ads will tell people, but I've asked people, please look into my record. I'm proud of my record. And on the flip side of that, you have others who are telling people who they are, but then when you look into their record, where they have actually shown people who they are, it's completely different.
Well, it was nice. I mean, you and I think what wasn't there two women on stage for that debate? I think. I'm not really sure. I think you did better. I'm not. I don't know though. I don't know.
Dan was the journalist. So
Yeah.
there were two journalists kind of at the helm asking the questions, and obviously I meant on the stage as
Right.
the
Everybody
debate.
knew that. Yeah, I know. It's
Yeah,
just funny.
she
Oh,
clearly did not.
yeah. All right. So where can before I kind of get your last words and the things you wanted to bring up for anything that we didn't get a chance to talk about, where can people go and find out more information about you?
Go to RebeccaForGovernor.com and you can sign up today to volunteer. What we really need right now, guys, is more people to make phone calls and more people to knock doors. When I say that our grassroots effort is really our strength here and we're growing that for the general, that's being very, very sincere. We really are based on a grassroots effort. That's why I spend so much time, recruiting local candidates, investing in local races, because we got to take back control from the local level all the way up through the state. A lot of our volunteers have come to us because they've seen, dang, the Kleefisch campaign, they're really invested in, our daily lives, what we do at school board and town council and county board. And that's very true. I mean, this past spring, even, Ben, we invested in 116 local races across the state. We won 85 of them. School board, town council, county board, judgeships. It really matters because, especially in this last week, we saw the Lacrosse County Board, because we won the majority there, strike down this effort to try and get a pot referendum, a non-binding pot referendum on the ballot, which is what you remember brought people out in college towns across Wisconsin to vote Democrat, to vote Tony Evers, because you had a bunch of college kids who thought they were going to wake up and smoke dope in the morning. And so we need good conservatives doing not only that, but also passing our local ordinance on elections integrity and keeping Zuckerbucks out of elections. If you want to do that, I urge you to get under the skin of your county board and take a look at what Walworth County has done in passing that. And then it happened again, this last week. My own school board, my kids' school board, we invested in two candidates there. And 2 nights ago, there was a school board meeting, and these candidates just would not let it go. They were pit bulls. And they said, we want to make sure that politics are truly out of our classrooms. This year in classrooms at KMHS, no flags. No flags. Teachers are not putting up political flags or social agenda flags in their classrooms. We're not politicizing or indoctrinating children at Kettle Moraine High School.
Speaking of children, there was one thing. There was actually two questions in here. What do your children feel on all your hard work? Let's see if I can get that. It's going to be kind of small there. And the second was, can you get all the work done in your term when voted in? Yeah. So how do? Because I saw your kids on the debate, and they kept showing them, and I'm like, I wonder if they're like, Mom, shut up. Stop saying our names or calling us out because the camera keeps coming on us, or they're like, yay, I don't know.
No, they are my joy. I'm looking at one of my girls who is up and walking around there. Honestly, Renee, I just think God said when He made me, I am going to give you a very dramatic professional life, and I will give you very unproblematic children.
That's fantastic.
I mean,
I'd take
my kids are honestly, my kids are my everything. And what I do for them and for your kids and, for your sweet daughter, Ben. I just think that one day they will look at me and they will say, "What did you do when the world was on fire?" And I can look them in the face and say, "Everything I could."
Rebecca, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks. Same.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the time, Ben. And you know what, guys? I need your vote on August 9th. Let's beat Tony Evers. And I ask you to text and call other people. Vote for Rebecca August 9th. There's still people who don't know that August 9th is the date. You don't even need to try and spell out my last name, which was awful German spelling. Just say vote for Rebecca. Everybody else is named Tim. So I would just appreciate your vote. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, and I appreciate, no kidding, this is no fooling. Thank you for coming on and doing this because, as everybody knows, if you want to come on our show for anything or just, it's not an interview, it's not hard-hitting questions, it's just, get to know someone kind of a thing. All people have to do is ask. And you're the only one that is asked to come on, because we were asked that last week from someone, like, how come you don't have the other ones on? I'm like, because they didn't ask. But I don't know what the reason is. Obviously, they're aware of who we are and et cetera, or certainly their campaign must be. And if they don't, they should. Good Lord. But it's the same thing as always, Northwest Wisconsin. And I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, you lean left or right or somewhere in the middle. If you live in Northwest Wisconsin, we all can agree on one thing, that we never get any love, right? It's like, it's Northwest Wisconsin. Who cares? Right? I got bigger things to do.
So remember who showed you love and attention in this primary, because it's not going to end. And we're going to take cabinet on the road up north again.
Sweet.
And we're going to have the Governor's Up North Business Summit.
Hey.
We're going to actually make real investments in rural broadband so that, this feed is not choppy and my kids don't have to hotspot off their cell phones. I'm serious about this. Tony Evers is unserious about this. I want to be your governor. I want to get this state back on track again, take back control, and give it back to the people.
Thanks, Rebecca. Good luck on August 9th.
Thanks.
All right, special thank you to our guest today, the very too-polished, apparently, Republican candidate for Wisconsin, Governor Rebecca Kleefisch, for joining us for a chat. For Dryden.com, I'm Ben Dryden, and I'll see you right back here on Tuesday for our latest Positive Tuesday with Ben and 50 show. So until then, thank you for watching. Thank you for the comments. And as always, have a blessed day.